episode starts off with Tyler in Arizona. He calls his mom and says he'd rather be camping out in the desert right now, whatever that means. His mom tells him to watch out for Scorpios in the desert. Back at Tyler's house, he's clearly exhausted from what's going on with Kate, but his sister Amber and all her kids are hanging around hounding the poor guy with questions. He's very quiet and obviously just wants them to give him some space. Amber is basically a mess. Her boyfriend Billy, who looks like a billy goat, just got out of jail and he's hanging around the house too. Amber and Andrew are building a nursery. That's Amber Portwood. Not much happens here, but of course Amber's in a onesie again. Need I remind you, this woman runs a clothing boutique online, and she says that she started that boutique because everyone told her how fashionable she was. Gary and Christina open the test results for Jody and Gary's paternity test, and sorry Jody, you are not the father. But no one's dancing around cheering. It's a pretty emotional moment, and Christina is crying, and Gary is basically trying not to cry. He's back to square one, trying to find his biological dad. For once, Macy is the focus of her own segments instead of Mackenzie and Ryan, and she announces that she's doing a show called Naked and Afraid. Macy's pretty cool and all, but was anyone else just like, what the hell? It's just so random, I could never see her doing that. Anyway, she's going to do survival training for the show. She says it might be weird doing it since she's so modest. She also says that everyone else is going to be jealous of Taylor when she's on there because she'll look hot naked. Okay, Macy, getting a little cocky there, but okay. Farrah and Morgan sit to have their little chat. Morgan says that Farrah has no empathy or compassion for other people and treats everyone on the crew terribly. Farrah says she's not difficult. Okay. Morgan says that the decision about her not being allowed to do porn was made above him. That probably means that the sponsors and commercials were pulling out of MTV because of Farrah's image. They don't want to be associated with that. So MTV executives are the ones who decide to give her the boot, not him. We go back to Macy, who's vaping while they head over to train for wilderness survival. She struggled to build a fire, so I'm not sure how well she'll do on Naked and Afraid, but who knows? She seems pretty persistent. Gary's dad still has the title card saying Gary's dad, even though we just learned that he biologically is not. We learned that Gary's mom forced him to pay child support, even though she knew he might not be the father. Over to Tyler. Tyler's mom is chatting to Amber. We learned that Billy Bob was in jail for selling drugs, unsurprisingly, and he has an ankle bracelet that he has to charge. Tyler's mom asks why Amber didn't go to rehab when Butch did. Even though Amber said on Instagram that she never did drugs, I have a link down below to the video she posted about that if you want to check it out. But she was lying because, as she admits now, she was addicted to Adderall. She says she wouldn't go to rehab because she thought of it as a challenge for herself to not do drugs, instead of getting help from someone else. Which, by the way, is the worst logic I've heard and one of the stupidest things I've heard on this show. She says she wants to start having babies with Billy. Everyone at the table is shocked. She says maybe they'll get married first, but that they're not using condoms anytime soon. By the way, her kids are just sitting there listening to all this, in case you were wondering. I don't know if she's trying to get her own spin-off show by acting like a crazy person, or if she actually is that ignorant, but that just happened. The conversation with Farrah ended pretty quickly. They hyped this conversation up so much, but it was so anticlimactic. They basically just tell her to call them back with her decision. If she chooses to do the cam show, she'll be fired. Back to Amber. They're painting the room blue for the baby, and Amber is hugging a sloth, calling it her spirit animal. Seriously, this is the most self-aware she's ever been. Macy is having a chat with Bentley about what he thinks of her leaving. Macy says she can survive without a man, and they have a cute little chat about how he thinks she'll do on the show. Tyler is talking with his sister about her plans to marry Billy. She says Billy has no car, no job, and he has an ankle bracelet for the next 6 months, but she loves him anyway. Amber says she sees Tyler as a father figure, even though he's younger than her, and she wants his approval about Billy. Over to Gary. The whole family is about to have a talk about Jody not being Gary's biological dad. Carol is sitting there with all this Claire's jewelry store Christmas accessories in her hair, and totally brushes off Jody's sadness about the results. She barely gives a lame sorry that's the same tone of sorry you'd tell someone who you accidentally bumped into on the street. She says there's only one other possibility of the father, but she won't say who. Macy discusses Taylor having to take care of 3 kids while she's gone. She says he'll know what it feels like now to have to drink a beer by himself while the kids wonder what he's doing. We learn that Ryan still has not passed a drug test to show her. Caitlin FaceTimes Tyler, and she also talks to Nova. Nova leaves in the middle of the conversation to get some pictures she drew to show Kate, but they end the conversation not knowing why she left, and then when Nova comes back with the pictures and sees that Kate is gone, she starts crying for her mom, and it's kind of a sad moment. Farrah calls back Morgan that night and says she'd rather do the cam show than be on Teen Mom, and I guess she'd try to make it like she quit instead of got fired. But if you remember, she actually didn't do the cam show, and everyone who paid for it had to get a refund. This was back in October. So I'm not sure if she really thinks they're going to hire her back, or she's trying to sue them, or what her end goal is here. Farrah is just a mess, and thankfully that's the last scene we'll ever have to see of her on this show. So, Farrah is gone, and that ends this episode. Do you agree with Farrah being fired? Are you going to watch Naked and Afraid with Macy on it? What did you think of Jody not being Gary's dad? Leave a comment down below and subscribe for Teen Mom recaps every week.